Hi there, this is Kate from Blackstone Valley Veggie Gardens, coming to you from wonderful Blackstone, Massachusetts. And I'm here today to show you how to perform a relatively new and exciting, time-saving gardening technique called winter sowing. Specifically, what is winter sowing? Winter sowing is exactly what it sounds like, sowing seeds in the winter. Well, there's a lot of ways to do it and a lot of different containers to use, but for this purpose, we're going to look at sowing in milk jugs. And the 2-gallon ones really work the best. And this is not a milk jug, by the way, it's a 1-gallon water bottle. You can use a milk jug or a juice bottle. If it's clear or opaque like this, or translucent, excuse me, this is translucent, you can use it. If it's solid, you can't use it because the sun won't get in. So the first thing we do is we take this bottle, right? And with the normal, ordinary pair of scissors, we cut all around the center and we leave this part here as a little latch. It is easier that way because every once in a while you have to open them, etc. So we'll leave it a nice little latch. Okay. So another thing we do when we're preparing the milk jug is you poke holes in the bottom for drainage. If you don't and you leave these outdoors to sow in the winter, we may get a real heavy snowstorm or torrential rains and it may flood. And the rainwater won't evaporate so much because it doesn't have a lot of area to evaporate in as long as it got this little air hole up here. So in any case, we do put drainage holes in the bottom. In case they get, and importantly, you have to poke from inside out because if you poke from outside in, sometimes you're actually building little ridges in there that will prevent the drainage from occurring. You don't want that. So you also poke a little hole on the side. So if the bottom holes get clogged up, you will still have the side hole for drainage. Next step is that we're going to add some soil. What kind of soil do we add? Well, ironically, sounds counterintuitive, but we don't add seed startings to soil. There's a special soil that you use when you start your seeds under lights and for transplanting in your outdoor garden, and they're only meant to propagate those seeds, to sprout those, germinate those seeds, and then they have no nutrition. It's nice that they have nutrition. They'll see the seed off to where it needs to be, which is the first couple of leaves, and then it's transplanted. But these seeds need to be in the soil for months. We start them in January, and then whenever, between March and May, they're transplanted. So they really need a little bit of nutrition in that soil, a little bit of composted material. So what I'm going to use, because I had it lying around and I'm a cheapskate, what I'm going to use is some raised bed soil that I had from a package. So what else can you use? You can use a good potting soil. You can use garden soil. Um, and yeah, that's probably a garden soil, raised bed soil, or potting soil, but not seed starting soil. That's a sterile material. It doesn't have enough nutrition to seed these seedlings until you want to transplant. So, but use what you have laying around. By all means, don't go out because it's not a big deal. It isn't. We're not going to, the seedlings are not going to stay in these temporary homes until they bear fruit or, go nuts. They're just here temporarily until we can transplant. So here we go. I'm going to put some potting soil in here. This happens to be raised bed soil. We're going to put it in here. Okay. And we're gonna, I'd say, do it probably a good 2/3. You need few inches in there. So this is kind of lumpy. Not a bad lumpy, but it's kind of lumpy. So we're going to, there we go. Okay, this is good soil. It's coast of Maine. Somebody gave it to me. So, okay. So we press it down and then I'm going to water it with the spray bottle. I'm going to water it well. For me, it's important to water the soil before I put the seeds in because if I water it after I put the seeds in, the effort of watering can actually dislodge the seed to soil contact, and you may not want that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to water the heck out of it, and you don't have to buy an expensive bottle. I mean, you can always use a Windex bottle that you've used that's empty. You've got to wash it out real good, or you could use any kind of spray bottle you have around the house. So I'm going to give it a good spray in. Wait a couple of seconds because you got to wait a couple of seconds for the earth to absorb the water. So there you go. So what I'm going to plant and what I typically plant, you can plant anything using this technique, but what I'm going to plant right now are Bloomsdale long-standing spinach. And these are fairly decent sized seeds, but you can plant them fairly close together. So I'm going to start off 9 seeds. Okay, so I'm going to do 3 rows of 3. And uh, you can use the bottom of a pencil. You can use a dibble, which is a wooden tool used specifically for sowing seeds. Or you can use your finger. Since the soil is wet, I don't really want to use my finger. Usually I would, but kind of embarrassing in front of all you folks to do so. So, all right, so 1, 2, 3. And I'm going to go, for these, I'm going to go probably about a half an inch down, 9 times. 9, 3 rows of 3, like a tic-tac-toe board. So what you do, right, is, when you get a pack of seeds, Mother Nature isn't, Mother Nature's she she's not all that consistent sometimes. So what I do is instead of planting 1 seed to the hole, even though these are new fresh seeds, I'm going to plant 2 to the hole just because I can. And I'm going to plant them 2 to the hole. Okay. Okay. That way, if too many come up, you can always thin out, survival of the fittest, that type of thing. And if not, you may only get 1, that's fine too. Seeds are cheap, especially if you do what I do, is have a seed swap every year, so you don't have to be one package of lettuce has 300 seeds. I like lettuce. Greens are good, but I'm certainly not going to grow 300 lettuce plants. They have a lettuce has a long life expectancy to the seed, maybe 5 years, but nonetheless, I maybe grow 6 or 7 plants a year for myself. So then I'm going to take a little bit of seed soil and I'm going to sprinkle it on top of the seeds, right, as you can probably see. And then the important part here is that it gets patted down. I know I should use a shovel. It should be patted down on top so that you have good soil to seed contact. Okay, so so I did that. So I'm going to make a label. Okay, this is a paint pen. Different than a marker, different than a Sharpie. This is actually a paint pen. And from what I hear from my dear friend Cheryl Mann, who has a whole gardening Facebook group that just for winter sowing and milk jug sowing, she says that these markers have less of a tendency uh, to wear off through the rain and all that. So I'm going to write down Bloomsdale spinach. And I'm going to stick it right in there and close it up. Yeah, put it on near the end here. I don't want to just disrupt any of the seeds. So I'm also going to write, once I get this all locked up, I'm also going to write on the tape. Okay. But just in case it wears off, sometimes it does. I don't trust Mother Nature. I always have a plan B, and I would expect if you're a good gardener, you do as well. And even then, sometimes plan B doesn't cut it. So this is duct tape. Don't try to use masking tape. Don't try to use painter's tape. Don't try to use scotch tape. Use masking tape. Probably comes in different colors. This is the standard old silver one, but there's a reason I say this has to last outside in the rain. And this is the most critical part of the whole process, is making sure that this is airtight and you've got it's completely stuck. Some people may put two tapes, double roll it. Okay, I think that's going to be just perfectly fine. Okay, and then I'm going to write Bloomsdale spinach twice now. You saw me put the label inside, but like I say, Dale spinach. Okay, and this is a painter's pen, like I say, so it'll dry out just like paint. So here it is, ladies and gentlemen. So I'm going to put this one off and talk to you a little bit about it. So what I'm going to, let me tell you about the plants that I use for this method. They're cold hardy: spinach, lettuce, kale, uh, cabbage, Brussels sprouts, broccoli, chard, so many of your other cold hardy greens, and your alliums as well. Many of your onions, you can, and perennial flowers do quite well, and sometimes annual flowers as well. I haven't really played around with that so much, but a lot of people do. So try them out and see what works. But what happens is you take those jugs and put them in a bed. Don't put them on top of a table. They may blow off, and then forget it. It's not going to grow. So put them inside a raised bed. So you up against they won't fall out. And then the the rain will come and the snow will come and then the sun will come, and those seeds will get wet, they'll dry out, they'll get sunny, they'll get wet, they'll dry out, they'll get wet, and the hard part of the seed will actually wear off. And then as the seasons change and the climate begins to warm up, they will actually germinate and they'll grow. And that's when you transplant them into your garden. Now, regular plants that I plant on the lakes. By the way, that's a hydroponic system. You can actually start seeds in a hydroponic system to transplant outside if you have a special attachment for them. But you can plant, start seeds in many ways. But this way is the most like nature. So, and don't be afraid of the seeds freezing. Seeds do well with freezing. They have these big, huge seed banks up in, I don't know where it is, Norway or something, way up in the Arctic, and they do just fine. Plants can't tolerate a freeze, but seeds do quite well, and they'll germinate when they germinate. So what I do is my cold hardy crops. I can also do my tomatoes, peppers, eggplant, and all that. But word of warning, they're going to germinate much later when left to Mother Nature because of our environment, our cool environment here. So they'll catch up, but it's kind of risky. So I plant all my warm weather crops either by seed or indoors. I don't use them. So let's go over it. Spinach, kale, broccoli, cauliflower, spinach, kale, broccoli, cauliflower, chard, all your greens and all your brassicas, spinach, all that kind of stuff. That's basically an onion. That's basically what I use this technique for. And it works wonderfully. So I put them in the bed and make sure they do. If I have to, if any of them are kind of dangling off, I put a piece of string around it and tie it real good, tie them all together. And then you look at them and hopefully you'll see the condensation and the greenhouse effect around the jug. I should, yeah. You just look right down on them and all you should see all little droplets. It's raining inside this container. If you don't, it's beginning to dry out. So you will put your sprinkler on and give it a little bit of water. And if you do water without the sprinkler, you have to pour some in there. Do so very gingerly so you don't dislodge the seed. I'm trying to figure out if there's anything I didn't tell you about this process. I'm not quite sure. But if you do all your winter, your cool weather crops this way, it'll certainly cut down on the amount of work you have to do in the spring. And that's what being sustainable is about, leveling your workload as well. Doing more with less and making things work on your schedule. So I think that's about all I wanted to tell you. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you very much and happy gardening.